Hello guys, welcome back. It's Logical as always, and yeah, we're on to our next boss in Nightreign, our next Night Lord, and obviously, yeah, I've got a few things that I want to talk about. Draconic Tree Sentinel. I'm not going to lie, dude is juiced to the high heavens. I'm telling you now, right, just realistically speaking, Draconic Tree Sentinel was a joke during Elden Ring. He was probably a difficult boss for maybe the first month, and then he was easy. In this game, it's a completely different kettle of fish. On to the other hand, you have Gnoster? I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. This dude is just on steroids. There isn't even an argument to this. This dude's just on steroids. This dude, there's a lot to do with this boss that I have to say is pretty damn interesting, but is also pretty damn painful at the exact same time due to the fact that this boss managed to wipe me out. I think as of right now, no, he's not. He'd be very close to my top most difficult bosses. It's simply just down to the fact that there's two enemies that you need to keep an eye on, which more or less equals it being a massive damn hitbox. So it is. So there's a lot to really talk about this boss and how difficult he can be. Plus, the sheer amount of AoE this guy has is truly on the absurd scale. So it is. He is a tank. He reminds me of a different boss though, and I can't remember. I think it's a boss from Armored Core he reminds me of, to be fair, but I can't remember off the top of my head which one he reminds me of. But he is absolutely 10 out of 10 despicable. So he is. He is the epitome of despicable. So he is. Now as it says, I've had some good runs, I've had some bad runs. So it just depends on how well everybody else plays. Like in this attempt, we did get pretty damn close to beating him. We did. I didn't get exactly what I needed during this run, but at that stage, it is what it is. It was just one of those matches where things just didn't go to plan. She was focusing on trying to heal, but at the exact same time, what ended up happening was the fact that being in his way, it's like being in the road of an absolute semi-truck. So it is like being in front of this boss is a bad idea. Being beside this boss is a bad idea. Enough said. Between the poison procs that this gets, basically the unlimited poison proc that it has, as well as just its sheer damage, makes him devastatingly difficult to beat. The Scarab tends to carry a lot of AoE, but then so does the Butterfly. This boss is designed to fight multiple people, because nearly every attack that it does, and the fact that both things can attack simultaneously, means that you're going to have a bad day trying to fight this boss. And I'm not going to lie, I have had multiple bad days trying to fight this boss. I think this boss took me 2 days to put down, give or take. But no, it would be close to 2 days that this boss actually did take me to put down, which is shocking because in between this year, obviously, I've been playing co-op and doing my own things and fighting other bosses, because I think I got stuck on this boss and then went on to the boss after this one and then beat him and then came back. So it was one of those situations where I really just needed to just leave him to cook for a little bit and then come back and beat him. But now we're going to get to our actual opening run, our winning run. I'm trying to figure out a very nice way to edit this. And in this run, I got 2 raiders. And I'm not going to lie, guys. These raiders more or less hard carried me throughout this. Not even hard carried. They were a lot stronger than I had wholeheartedly anticipated. Raider is just very strong from what I've seen. But in saying that though, their pathing was perfect. Everything that they did, they knew. These guys hands down knew what they did, because the first thing they did, because we landed right near to a church, immediately ran to grab a flask. Simple as. After that, we're immediately aiming in on clearing out any forts to get our hands on the maps, so we can get any accessible drops that we could possibly get our hands on. Now, one of the raiders just completely, as is, I'm still new to this, so I'm still learning at this stage, but one of the raiders just blitzed straight on past and went straight for the Guardian Golem. Now, again, the Guardian Golem is not what I would consider an immensely challenging boss, but regardless of that don't mess with a raider, apparently. I know Warframe Lich YT is working on. I think he actually does like the Raider. He doesn't like the second R1 because it takes so long. I think that was what he said to me. What is this? Excuse me? No. I don't know why, but my computer just completely spazzed out. But before either of us was able to even get to him, yeah, he had already taken out the Guardian Golem. There was little to nothing that we could do. He had more or less just beat down the Guardian Golem himself. As says, he is in, oddly enough, the Knight form, so he has more than enough experience. Now, why is he fighting this boss? I don't know, but it is quite evident that he has more than enough experience if he has that skin already, because that's going to take, if you're earning on average about 2k a run, not counting any relics that you sell, you're probably earning, was it 3,500? That's what? Damn, that's a lot of runs. 5? 10? 15? Nah, it couldn't be. He probably did sell it like that. There's 15 runs if you're going at a 2 grand sort of baseline. So he must have been doing pretty damn well. But regardless, his pathing was on point. And again, this is where I need to bring this up. Is obviously whenever it comes to building your Iron Eye, you're focusing on anything that gives you damage, basically. Damage at a range, damage at full health, stuff like that there. Stuff that you can maintain easily, especially if you are picking up a load of flasks. Straight after that there, we immediately go in and start clearing out camps. As says, we're just on a clearing spree at the minute, so we're going to clear anything that we can get our hands on. Night Tide grows stronger, and that there's after us already clearing out 2 areas, so it is. Well, on the verge of clearing out 2 areas, so it is. So immediately I'm going to be like, okay, I'm just going to do the most illogical thing possible. I'm going to let him deal with the Banished Knights, and because there's a Scarab nearby that I don't want to get sucked up into the storm, I'm going to just, let them do their thing, and I'm going to go kill a Scarab. Yeah, not a very team-like thing to do, but on top of that the Scarab was bloody useless. What was the point of me even going to get it? Bar just taking more damn damage. So yeah, they'd already defeated the Banished Knights before I even got the length. And yeah, at this stage I'm sort of looking at, do I need more defense? I did realise that I need to be a little bit more accurate on my decision making sometimes, because the Great Axe there does come with additional magic damage, and my bow just so happens to deal magical damage. So it's one of those things. Immediately go and pick up another flash charge, because again, this is exceptionally important. But as you can see, the guys have completely outpaced me in every way, shape and form. I just ignore this one because there's no point me looking at it, simply off the base factor of there's nothing there for me to get. I found some buried treasure, and yeah, it's nice to see that they've given some boss weapons unique features as well, like giving the golden halberd impaling thrust, which is a very nice thing to see, so it is, because normally it comes with a buff of some kind, so it does, instead of impaling thrust. So it's nice to see that, so it is, and it has its uses. Pop over here to find out what our situation is. I think I brought it up in a previous video that the use of Black Flame Blade is exceptionally powerful in this kind of game, so it is. So immediately I'm going, even though I can't use really powerful miracles, or I can't use miracles very well, this is still pretty damn good for me, so it is. At this stage, again, whenever we're selecting stuff, realistically, if it doesn't come with ranged weapon damage or damage at full health or something else that gives us passive damage like the glintstone blades, yeah, we're not really looking at anything, so we aren't. And again, Molten Necklace is, again, in this scenario, completely and utterly redundant, so it is, which is disappointing, so it is. But yes, on to our first major boss fight of this run, so the day 1 boss fight, is going to be the Tibia Mariner and those who live in death. Now, realistically speaking, it's not really much of a fight. We already know what the Tibia Mariner does, and we already know who those who live in death are. So it's not exactly what you consider a difficult fight. What does make it slightly more difficult for me, particularly, as you see I'm going to pull out the sword to try and finish them off, is that really it's just their resurrection capabilities. They don't really die too easily. Other than that there, didn't notice anything new with the Tibia Mariner, simply due to the fact that Zaza is just completely and utterly burying everything under the standard bonk playstyle. Not gonna lie, the fight takes longer than normal due to the fact that those who live in death are quite beefy, so they are, but the Tibia Mariner is not really a threat. I don't think the Tibia Mariner has ever been a threat within the realms of Elden Ring or anything else. So as we get our rewards, unfortunately, none of these. Actually, improved dodging is actually very good. At this stage, I haven't learned that, so I'm just picking up whatever I believe is going to be good. I pick up the enhanced armaments, or the enhanced sorceries and incantations, because I am currently using them. But if you look at good old Greeny here, who is just hightailing it through the flames at his own ease, this is when I discover the ability to just hightail it through the fire. You save so much time before your next run, so you do. And this is a game changer, so it is. So immediately, obviously, you've seen us heading into the cave, so immediately our job is to go clear out the cave, because again, getting any upgrades is good. Primarily, what you're going to be looking for is 9 times out of 10, the smithing stone. Because I'm just more or less reiterating that I have went through this game so many times, and I've always been stuck with a blue weapon at some stage. It's just handy to have, so it is. And then we find our next boss, so we do, which again, the guys just immediately start to mollywop him. As says, the Leonine Misbegotten isn't exactly what you would consider a immense challenge in this scenario, so he isn't, because quite frankly, he's just getting stagger locked. There's really nothing more that can be said or done. He just got stagger locked into oblivion, so he did. And it's just another boss down. Eventually this does just turn into, we are grabbing our increased maximum stamina, because whenever you're an archer, stamina is key. But at this stage of the game, we're basically just doing the standard of let's go delete everything. Like one of the guys had already went and completely cleared out Neverjail before the thought process had even struck me. So I'm basically playing catch up at this stage. But obviously by the time I do catch up to them, we're immediately making our way into the main castle to see about what our big rewards are going to be. As says, I'm still trying to figure out a few odds and ends, but it is what it is. It is the Red Wolf of Radagon, so it is. And again, the Red Wolf doesn't exactly have what you consider an immense amount of health. Even by this stage, they should still be tankier. Like the biggest there's 2 of the biggest nightmares that you can run into down here, and this is not one of them. The 2 of the biggest nightmares is either going to be the Bell-bearing Hunter or the Royal Revenant. Depending on who you get, depends on how bad of a day you're about to have. And now the tide starts to show its teeth, so it does. And at this stage, I can't actually remember. Do I actually go with the Erdtree bow? I do believe I do. I pick up the Erdtree bow and focus on it's not so much the holy damage that I'm after. It's just straight up stronger than what I currently have. So, and again, unfortunately, Iron Eye doesn't use magic or faith particularly well, because he does have D's in those particular scalings. So it's a bit disappointing in that scenario, if that makes sense. But it does, regardless though, having that additional damage should actually help, because I think on baseline, its physical damage is stronger than the horn bow, so I figured it'd be a good idea to stick with the upgrade paths that we have and work with what we've got. So of course, we immediately blitz a Crucible Knight, so we do. And of course, my immediate plan is I'm going for my Viridian Amber Medallion, simply due to the fact that increased stamina. Again, I don't think people understand how actually important increased stamina is for the Iron Eye character. And then again, if we're already on this level of a Blitzkrieg, why are we slowing down? Just keep going. These guys don't take no for an answer. Even whenever getting ambushed by a Crucible Knight, yeah, their damage is on a different level to mine. As is, that's expected, because range damage is always, it's more DPS over time rather than anything else. Again, Rotten Great Axe is no good to us, so we're going to increase our potency again. Again, still don't know if that works on weapon buffs. But considering we're still here, yeah, sure, let's just decimate another fucking Crucible Knight like he is nothing. Like, I remember whenever Elden Ring released, the Crucible Knight was one of the biggest nightmares, and now he's just a cakewalk to put down. It's like, make it make sense sometimes, please. Just make it make sense. Stop by the shop to pick up some uplifting aromatics, because they come in super handy in a tight pinch. And then, of course, a boss genocide spree, basically, it turns into, because the Erdtree avatar really doesn't stand a chance between the Master of Unga Bunga and Black Flame. Can't really say much else to that, so I can't. So yeah, the moment that Zaza joins in, this boss fight's basically it's over. There's not really much can be said or done at this stage. It's the boss is just getting straight up bullied at this stage. There's nothing really much that can really be said. But as says, with the fact that they are raiders, I'm starting to see the actual power, and I think this is the first actual time that somebody actually goes down, which is shocking to me because, yeah, we got this far, and that's our first down, never mind kill. And then, ta-da, we get the creme de la creme, we get ourselves the black bow. This is the bow that you are going to be wanting if you're doing pure physical damage, so it is. As it says, the Erdtree bow is pretty damn good if you're looking holy damage. The horn bow is your only magical option, but when it comes to this here, the black bow is your go-to. So it is because it's pure physical damage. Nothing else, it is just pure physical damage. As it says, where the Erdtree bow really does lack, again, boss genocide, we're killing dragons. But the thing is though, is again, I'm sort of sick. I want to see how well this bow does, the Erdtree bow does perform. But the reason why I'm checking this here primarily is for my own sort of numbers, because I do realise that Iron Ice does have a D in both intelligence and faith, which means that this bow shouldn't hit as hard as the black bow. But at the same time though, the black bow still is, it's nice to have a nice variance between them. So it is, because at this moment in time I'm still not 100% sure to how the relics affect your stats, because it'll give you +1 or +2 to strength or dex. Is that +1 or 2 scaling points? Is that +1 or 2 tiers of scaling? Which way does that math out? And then we get the Serpent Bow, but the reason why we're going to go with the Serpent Bow is because it gives us increased ranged weapon damage. Now, the Serpent Bow is a fantastic weapon to grab, and the reason why it's good is simply due to the inherent poison effect that it comes with. So it is, that's really all it is. And then, of course, another Evergale. Again, these guys are not messing about. They are going on the widest spree of annihilation. So they are like this. You can now understand why this was the winning run, more or less. Even I understand why this is the winning run, because the previous runs were never this smooth and never this clean. These guys smashed everything. So they did. There was nothing that they did not smash. So there wasn't. And of course we're going to take the runes because levels is always going to be important. It's finally at this stage that I discover that it's probably a good idea to shift over to the black bow, because it's just going to do more damage. Iron Eyes has enough dexterity to make this truly valuable. And all the bows have S scaling in dexterity. So this means that this is the best thing to do. As it says, I still, at the minute, like I don't cover the relics because the relics are just entirely randomized, so they are. But if you really did want the best relic, you're just looking at anything that gives you it brings your dex up to S, as well as, that's really it. Increasing your damage in any way, shape or form is pretty damn good. But normally your dexterity is going to be your go-to, because I have realised with the relics that you're like, again, Zaza, I had the boss dead before we even got the length. And we were right next to him. So we were. And the thing is though, is the elemental damage is good if you can get it. So it is, as a passive effect, it does give you that extra little punch. So it does. Magma Worm discovered that it now actually does its belly flop attack, because guess what? I never discovered that it did its belly flop attack in the past. It's probably because I've always killed the Magma Worm before it could do the giant belly flop, which is still hilarious. But again, we are hammering these bosses down in record speed, simply due to the fact that having 2 raiders just jump attack spamming is basically just asking for a massive ass whooping. So it is. And then you got me from ice. Like, I have additional sustained damage at this stage. Again, I don't know why I swapped over to the Erdtree bow. I don't know what possesses me to switch between my bows. It's either that or I just wholeheartedly, quite possible, I just didn't cop on that I was using the Erdtree bow at that stage. It is 100% possible at this stage that I simply did not know. So it is. But again, the Magma Worm is still not as much of a threat as a few of the bosses that exist within this game, because there's a few bosses, and funnily enough, they're Elden Ring bosses that are ridiculous threats within this game that could very easily easily decimate your team. But again, in saying that though, with the amount of damage that we have, like as you're seeing, like there's nothing this Great Worm can do. With the combination of Black Flame Blade and 2 Raiders, there's really not much he can do. So there isn't. As is, can still chunk me rightly, but it still doesn't overall help what he's trying to do. And then with the combination of my Mark Stun, everybody should know by now, the second that you see 2 Raiders in your team, it's GG. The Raiders are just going to smash their way through the game. There isn't even an argument. There's no debate in this. So there isn't. And then I think at this stage I do pick up the potency of incantations again. Still don't know if it affects my weapon buff. And now we're on to day 3. The creme de la creme of the entire fight. And possibly the biggest bane in my existence. I think I do actually end up using this on the Godslayer seal. Now, whether or not that benefits me, again, I have no idea. As it says, things are in desperate need of testing. But unfortunately, the way that this game is, it can prove quite... Oh no, actually, there's actually a testing area within the game. So it is quite possible that it could possibly work. And I may need to go do a lot of testing, which is kind of terrifying, I'm not going to lie. But yes, now it's time for the big bad boss himself. This boss caused me an immeasurable amount of trouble, so he does. It's simply just primarily because, right, because he's divvied up into 2, as I said, I'll probably end up reiterating quite a bit. Sorry, I'm just after dinner. But the thing is, though, as Iron Eye, my main role in this is the same as mostly any other ranged caster, or even just ranged in general. Your main job here is to mostly just deal with the butterfly, entertain the butterfly, while your melee characters, Raider, so on and so forth, deal with the Scarab. I think everybody's just taken to calling it a Scarab. Scorpion, fuck even knows what it is. It's a bug that's on the ground and it likes to burrow. But long story short, there's how the start of this fight really is meant to go, is the ranged characters, because what ends up happening is if you all just focus on the Scarab, you're not focusing on the Moth. And the Moth is a lot more dangerous than the Scarab is. What makes the Moth so dangerous is its AoE poison. And then if you get poisoned, you're done, Zedla. Unless you get somebody to help you. But dealing with the Moth is the highest priority. But you can see how quickly my team is dismantling. The 2 Raiders is dismantling these guys. And then obviously you have the ultimate accumulation of their power. Basically, Moth sits on top of Scorpion, making them very dangerous, to be quite honest. And no harm, but the orbital bombardments and the one-shots is a bit much in my opinion. But it just likes to charge at you and then basically shoot shotgun shells as well as orbital lasers. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to deal with that kind of power. So it is, especially whenever I'm as squishy as I am. But in saying that though, this match does go a lot better than the matches in the past. As says, I don't have direct fire damage on my bow, which is obviously the boss's main weakness, so it is. But luckily enough, there is somebody else who does actually have good fire damage here with an actual fire-based weapon. My only access to fire is Black Flame Blade, so it is. So I don't actually know how fire affects this one, but I think that's the first time I've ever seen the ability to riposte this boss. And it's simply just down to the fact that everybody's swinging Oonga Boonga. That's really all it is, and they're pretty damn chunky, to be fair. Like these guys don't take much damage, and they can dish out a whole lot more than expected. As it says, there's just me sitting in the background, chipping away. That's all my job is to do, is just to sit and chip at them. So it is. Doesn't stop them from being able to tag me more than once or twice. But yeah, thanks to the Raiders, as it says, thanks to the Raiders, they more or less carried this fight. So they did. So I have to say, quite frankly, fair play to them, Zaza and Roger. Fair play to the two of you. You've played exceptionally well. I have to admit, as I said, you more or less carried me through it. So I have no complaints in that scenario. We get our new set of relics, as well as the boss relic, which is very spiffy in my opinion, but unfortunately not for RNA specifically. So it is good relic, just not for RNA. We unlock the snowy mountaintop, so we do, and then we go and rejig my relics because of course we've unlocked new ones. So I need to get around to dealing with this and sort of updating my relics because again it's needed. And then this is where I discovered, oh look, I have found all the bows and how they scale, and they all scale with an S in dexterity. RNA only has an A in dexterity, which is a problem. But then great bows lean more into strength, so there's why I completely started leaning away from great bows. So yeah, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe if you didn't enjoy. And remember, guys, not everything goes to plan. See you all in the next video. Bye!